Okay, perfect. So just another big welcome to everyone. I know I've met some of you in different provincial meetings already this week and last week. So if this is your first national meeting, thank you for joining us. When we are able to, or when you're able to, please do consider becoming a member of FIC if you are not already, and you can do so by going to our website at ficdn.ca/memberships. I will put that in the chat box as well. Now, we'll just get right to it because we do have quite a lineup for today. Let's start with our government update. So I'll pass it over to our lobbyist, Chris Gray, who will speak a little bit to that and the things that we have had or have been dealing with for the last couple of weeks, as well as Scott to discuss some of the meetings that we have been in as well. So Chris, if you'd like to take it away.
All right, thanks very much, Trisha, and it's a pleasure to see everyone. It is a nice large group today. Just wanted to update on a couple of things. One is Bill C9 is the rent and wage subsidy legislation that continues to make its way through the House. I know that this has been long awaited and will be very useful for many businesses, including obviously gyms and fitness facilities. It's in the Senate right now, and Minister Freeland spoke before the Senate Finance Committee yesterday to address the bill, and I do expect this bill to be reported back to the House of Commons early next week and receive royal assent next week, which means that it becomes law and will start to roll out as early as next week. There is already been a flaw identified in the bill that the minister mentioned yesterday that will be addressed as soon as possible, and that was that the current bill requires businesses to prepay their rent before requesting federal aid, which businesses obviously said that would be quite difficult to do given the cash flow situation. So the minister did, as I said, commit yesterday to fixing that flaw in the bill. So that is about it on the rent and wage subsidy legislation. I will dovetail into some of the meetings that we had this week. And I will also ask Scott to weigh in on the meetings as well. But yesterday on Thursday, we and Trisha, of course, we had a meeting with staff in Aaron O'Toole's office. So that was with again a couple new staffers and policy advisors to talk to them about our issues with the rent and wage subsidy legislation, and also to put forward our ideas for the pre-budget submission and what we'd like to see moving forward. And similarly, we met with MP Pat Kelly, Member of Parliament from Calgary area, and many of you on this call also participated in that meeting, which I thought went quite well. There were he left me wanting in a couple of areas that we didn't have a chance to debrief in, but we can do that internally. But he remains supportive of FIC and I think will help us in any way that he can. He sits on the Finance Committee, and one of our goals is to try to get before the Finance Committee to present during the next 3 or 4 weeks before they have to provide their submission and their report to the House of Commons. So I will stop there, Trisha, and let you and Scott and any others who were on the meetings yesterday weigh in.
Thank you, Chris. Scott, if you'd like to take it away and give a quick overview.
Yeah, so yesterday our big push was one, making sure that the rent relief bill is quickly passed and readily available. Mr. Kelly also said that the bureaucrats behind the scenes are getting the infrastructure in place. So basically, as soon as it's passed, it's going to be available. And we just expressed our disappointment. We've had facilities closed in Quebec for going on 6 weeks now, and that needed to be done 7 weeks ago. So we expressed our disappointment. Our other big push, getting the audience with the Finance Committee is really going to be on how can we as an industry be part of the national solution. So we talked about the impact of exercise on mental health, the documentation, the science behind COVID and comorbidities, and getting more people active should this ever, God forbid, happen again. So, you know, utilizing motivational tactics like tax deductions for people that invest in their fitness, as well as prescriptive exercise. So we also lofted industry specific support. So, you know, we're going to go get an audience with the finance committee and present a really great case and return on investment for government dollars. We also are penning a letter to the premiers and the chief medical officers, basically in every province. What has basically happened to our industry hasn't been in the spirit of partnership that we've asked for. It's been very unilateral. They've imposed restrictions on us. We obviously disagree with the restrictions. Our body of work speaks for itself with 20 million plus check-ins and very low transmission rates. So we are asking that moving forward, we are consulted and work in partnership with the health authorities to create solutions to be able to reopen and stay open safely. We have very talented exercise physiologists on this call who really can curate a very well thought out exercise experience for people. So instead of them just telling us these are the rules, we want to be part of the conversation, creating the rules. So that's our objective. And I think that's it for now. We could probably get into provincial specific updates. I will say just one of the reasons, you know, we all saw what happened in Alberta on our call with the chief medical officer. I think our industry has been targeted unfairly, but they are the number one place where people are getting COVID is quote unquote unknown. So they don't know where people are catching COVID. And so what they've done is they said, okay, well, where did these people go? Well, you went to the gym, you went to get your haircut, you went to grab a drink at the bar. Okay, well, obviously, you know, those industries are unsafe. That's kind of their methodology behind it. Obviously, we completely disagree with that, but that's why it seems that we've been targeted. So I digress. I can vent for 2 hours on this, so I'll just stop talking for now.
Great. Thank you for that, Scott. Let's go to some of the other topics that we have right before we go into the provincial updates, some ideas and suggestions. So Nathalie, if you could talk a little bit about the one-on-one training that people are wondering about.
Thanks, Trisha. I just wanted to share one of the initiatives that we have in Quebec and to let everyone know that we seem to be making headway in some areas of our industry more than others, and that will likely create opportunities that are not available or as rewarding for every single member of FIC. But we still have to, when the doors closed and we get a crack in the window, we still have to move forward with that. So an example of that is personal training in Quebec. And we've had some support from the Federation of Kinesiologists because there's a lot of confusion in Quebec and a lot of incoherence as it relates to what's allowed and what's not allowed for physical activity right now. Duo training, meaning two people that are training, is permitted, which means there can be, I keep using the example of my 80-year-old father-in-law plays racquetball 3 times a week in a fitness facility that's gym is closed, but he's playing racquetball because that's okay. But right now, a personal trainer cannot meet with their client, even though they're 2 people. And there's a lot of confusion when it comes to that. And we saw it as a crack in the window to try and push for something that fits within the current protocols that are allowed, even though pretty much the entire province is closed right now in a red zone or in level 3, depending on where you live. They call it red zone here. So I know that personal training is not accessible to everybody in the general public. It's one of the more expensive things that we offer in our industry. I know that opening up personal training does not help a lot of the studios, does not help a lot of the larger surface gyms that maybe even turning on the lights for just a few trainers and clients doesn't work. But it is a crack that they actually asked Gabriel to send in a proposal to safely reopen personal training. And for us, we're seeing it as that opportunity to show how our safety protocols really, really work in a isolated type of format in the hopes of building upon that in the future. So as much as, and I'm saying this because some people are like, that's, who cares? Opening up personal training doesn't do anything for my facility. And I completely understand that. We're gonna do it anyways because it's something that was proposed to us when every other door is being closed. And I mean, in Quebec right now, closed hard as it relates to opening gyms anytime soon, but they're saying, send us something for PT, we'll look into it. So we will very likely in the months to come, in the year to come, run into certain situations that we have opportunities that don't make sense for every single one of the FIC members. And we always want to make sure that it's an inclusive and collaborative coalition as often as possible, but we also have to take these opportunities to see if we can get something moving and at least serve a portion of our members, get a portion of our employees and contractuals and our industry working in the hopes of using that as a springboard for safety moving forward. So I just wanted to share that with everybody because it doesn't mean we're ignoring studios. It doesn't mean we're ignoring group fitness. I'm a group fitness instructor, I get it, but right now, anything that is a grouping of people, they are extremely negative about, but PT, there seems to be an opening towards resolving the incoherence there and allowing personal trainers, because they're allowed to do consultations in person, they're allowed to do pre-rehab in person, but they're not allowed to do anything on equipment in person. So we're clarifying that, we're taking the door and seeing if we can find some openings in the hopes that it helps us build for the future.
Great, thank you
Thanks,
for
Trisha.
sharing that. So let's move on to Mo, who will be sharing a little bit about an outdoor fitness event or possibly something that we can adapt for National Health and Fitness Day.
Thank you, Trisha. Hello, everybody. So first of all, happy Friday the 13th. The last time we had Friday the 13th, it wasn't so happy, if you recall, back in March. I wanted to share something that is morphed outside of a passion project that I started with a colleague in the fitness industry back the first weekend of May. When we were obviously shut down, some of my colleague fitness instructors reached out to me and saying, what can we do to help keep our people moving, keep our class groups together? And so long story short, and it was actually inspired by something you probably saw in the news, the instructor out of Italy teaching a fitness class on his rooftop and then people on their verandas following him. So Sarah, my colleague and good friend, came to me and said, why don't we teach a street side fitness class and you have the perfect street? So I thought, okay, I just said yes. And then we did old-fashioned guerrilla marketing and said we were going to start just by bringing our neighbors together while practicing physical distancing every Sunday morning at 11 by way of each person's driveway, come out on the street. We will teach a class for 45 minutes. And we dropped a little invite in all their mailboxes, just walked around on the Friday. And unbeknownst to us, we got about 15 people show up. It's morphed into an event now. We've done it every Sunday since the first weekend of May, minus 3 days where we had rain, tornadoes, or snow. But we've done it consistently to the point where the news got out to some of the communities around us and people came from other streets and parts of London. That's where I live, London, Ontario. So it was something that we had no idea would actually build the type of community it built. We have people on our street have fallen in love with fitness, never involved with fitness before. We have people ranging from 8 to 83, and we've all got to know each other. It's a sense of community, camaraderie, not to mention numerous fitness results that they're boasting about every Sunday when they come out. Now, this did get picked up in the press. There was, first of all, an article that I wrote, if you caught in the latest, it was actually the September, October issue of CanFit Pro. There's the Christie Street class and crew. And then it got picked up as a feel-good sense of community connection by Good Life Fitness. And they put it out to the press Just in the last week, we've had 7 interviews, one of which hit ctv.ca. I gave the link to Trisha, who can share it with you in the chat. And we've had numerous TV and radio interviews. And I share that with you only to impress upon the number one question that I was asked in all of the interviews. Is this something you see continuing, or something that will become bigger and beyond just Christie Street? And I found that interesting, but in the last interview, it sparked an idea that I reached out to share with Scott and Trisha. And that was, I said, yes, of course it's going to expand beyond Christie Street, because I know other fitness professionals would love to share that same sense of opportunity. And then I thought, well, if we could share it beyond one street and one neighborhood, perhaps we could share it beyond one city and one province. And I thought perhaps this could be something, if we were to create a turnkey program model, it could be something that we do on National Health and Fitness Day. And that's why I'm bringing the story to you. And, you know, I will leave it at that. If you have any interest, please let Trisha know. But we're always, of course, wanting to do something for National Health and Fitness Day. And here we are talking about it in November versus in the spring, because before we know it, June will be here and we'll be all very much happier about that, I'm sure. But outdoor fitness is here to stay, and it is a fantastic way to bring community together. So thanks for allowing me to share.
Thank you, Mo. And it's a great idea there that your group has been doing. And I think it's a great way to kind of boost the idea of the benefits of exercise throughout by making it a community event. So I think that's really beautiful. And if we can start planning throughout the country, and because June's going to be here in no time, it always sneaks up. So something for us to consider, and a positive thing for us to consider when things seem to be a little bit gloomy
Exactly.
now.
And I'd be more than happy to create something to make it very easy to implement. And I can tell you this, I've had so many fitness professionals reach out and said, I've been wanting to do this, excuse. I don't know where to get technology. I don't have a mic. And I'm like, don't think about it. I had a knock on the door. My neighbor brought me over the Bluetooth speaker, a microphone, said, use it. And I'm like, okay. And it's cost us nothing but sweat and a lot of smiles and a commitment to wake up every Sunday and get together with our neighbors while practicing physical distancing.
Of course. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure this is something that we will be knocking at your door for to get some more insight into how we can expand. So let's move on to our next piece, which is a campaign that we are starting. It is a Did You Know campaign. So before we head into that, so we have been working with Good Life, who is creating also creating kind of a social display for us, and another campaign that we're going to be doing in the new year. But to get us to that point, we are taking a campaign that was first developed in Quebec, which is a Did You Know campaign that is focused on healthcare and physical activity for the purposes of healthcare. So I'll actually pass it over to Gabriel, who will talk to us a little bit about that campaign. And then Gabriel, if you want to go straight into the provincial update for Quebec, that would be great.
Thank you, Trisha. So at first, we started a campaign 3 weeks ago with a video, and the video was to take position for the health and the fitness industry, and a little bit tell other gyms that we are doing something and we are working hard to get our industry to the conversation with the government. And then we have a 12 weeks campaign each and every week presenting a good way to fight COVID and fight maybe like all the disease and chronic disease that the population has. And so each and every week, there's a statement of what we can do with physical activity regarding one disease and the relation of that with the COVID. So we try to have as much people coming in and try to focus also on the public opinion. And this is a point pretty important. Maybe I can go after with what we do in Quebec. But each and every time we speak with somebody at the minister, or even yesterday when we spoke with Mr. Kelly, this is something everybody tells us. Politics, it's all about public opinion. So more we can have public opinion and people moving and reaching people, more our industry will become important for government. So it's pretty important for I think, for FIC to focus on bringing our members, so all the gyms and their clients, to post, be ready, be there, share, have opinion on what we present, and that will make government take us seriously. So that's what we do here for 3 weeks now, and then at the national level we are going to share in English and do something neutral, so not focus on just like the Quebec statistic, but all Canadian wide. And we also are normally next Tuesday making the English version of the video for everybody to be able to share it across Canada. So that is what we do. Is it okay, Trisha? Is it clear enough, or do you want me to follow up with Provincial what we do here?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Thank you. So just in case anybody missed the last meeting, so we have a FIC promotional video in French that Gabriel headed that was about what FIC stands for and what we are doing. And I think I shared that in some of our other provincial meetings, but we are going to get one that is going to be translated in English that we will share. And then when it comes to this social media campaign, if you're not following FIC on social media, we highly recommend that you do and request that you do, so that you can help us get the word out when it comes to the benefits of exercise for various things such as physical and mental health and various types of those things. So perfect, thank you. Gabriel, you can go ahead with the provincial update.
Okay, cool. So there's a lot of stuff going on in Quebec. We had a lot of meeting this week. You already know we talked with sport minister here, and she opened some doors for us at different ministers. Anyway, sorry, sometime I'm searching my words in English. So the first thing we did this week, like Nathalie said, we bring a protocol to be able to reopen gyms, not the gyms, but reopen the activity of working out with a private coach in Quebec. So even if we are in a red zone, it's something that other federation and other sports are doing. So you can have a personal trainer or a coach coaching you one-on-one in karate or one-on-one in climbing, but you cannot be in a gym. So we present a protocol pretty clear, inspired by other federation. And so this is right now being discussed at the government. So this is one thing we did this week. After we have today to take a stand on the Stanford University study that came out that is saying that gyms could be a place where COVID can be spread, and the Prime Minister yesterday like tell people and answer a question saying that regarding this study, restaurants and gyms are a place where you can have or get COVID. So we have to take position on that, and in a positive way, to be able to keep the discussion open with government, but for sure saying that this study, the conclusion were not that being closed is the solution. The conclusion was more like making some protocols would help business and population. So this is another thing we do here. After we had a lot of discussion with economy, I just come out of a meeting with the economy minister here in Quebec, and they are presenting some solution that could help. I think they see more here in Quebec the after crisis. They talk to us about innovation and bringing some innovative way to bring training to people. But for now, they rely more on what the economy already has passed, like for the subsidies and all those stuff that already have been voted. So they are more looking for something after the crisis. For the work minister here, we had discussion, but they postponed a little bit later to next week to conclude on some proposition we made. And I had a discussion today with the opposition. So they were really open to what we do, and I was making sure with them that they were not targeting the government to show people like they are failing, but more expressing to them what we what we negotiate right now with government and where we're at. So it was a really, really good discussion with the opposition, the Liberal. It's Enrico Ciccone, a former NHL player, that is on the other side and representing sports and health with the Liberals. And to finish, we're going to start a survey today. It's the follow-up of the October survey for all the members here in Quebec, but I think it's going to be also available next week in English too, to know what's going on with the industry here and what are the problems or maybe the stuff we have to work on. So the survey is going to come out this afternoon, and that's it. So that's what we do.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gabriel. That was a great overview. Let's move to Ontario, the update in Ontario.
Sure. Well, we're waiting on Tinderhooks here for the next half hour. There's going to be an announcement at 2:30 from the province here. What we were looking forward to is tomorrow opening, at least in Toronto, we're going to be in the red zone opening, so gyms could open with 10 people in them, a maximum 3-meter distance, no group exercise. That was the rules for the red zone. What we're hearing through the grapevine, or at least I've been hearing a little bit, is that the announcement at 2:30 from Ford is potentially going to actually shut gyms down again. So we're just waiting to see if they're going to let people open tomorrow. Or if they're going to shut people down, which could be potentially outside of the red and orange zones as well. That could be more widespread. So we're gonna just have to see what they do announce. The call this week from our group, it's very different in Ontario, where pretty much all the other provinces have had a dialogue from the government. We've just gotten completely stonewalled in Ontario. Even one of our members, Chuck, has a direct line to Ford, who instructed his people to set up a task force with people from our coalition and have a conversation with fitness on the regulations, which was going to include representatives from Orange Theory and Movati and Good Life and places like that. And that call hasn't even moved forward. That person hasn't responded, as Blake can kind of speak to as well, who I see on the call. So it's been incredibly frustrating that we haven't had that, even going from the bottom up, looking at municipalities. A lot of our members have had conversations with their local people and their MPPs, and those people are frustrated because they're not getting much from the province as well. So on the government side, it's been there hasn't been much action, much traction, much of anything. And I think at this point in time, most of our members are pretty resigned to just working with the framework and seeing what happens and turning their attention to their own businesses and what they can do to adapt and innovate and try to do as best they can moving forward. So that's where we're at in Ontario. Again, in the next half hour, we'll get a better idea of what's going to happen moving forward, and everyone's just going to have to see what that is, and then figure what the next steps are for next week. So that's where we're at. Nothing. We had a positive in the sense that there was going to be some openings, at least were expected for tomorrow, and now we're not sure until we hear this afternoon. And everyone else is just, you said, focusing on what they can control within their own businesses and looking at how they can adapt to that.
Great, thank you, Nick. If we can get somebody from Manitoba, Dino?
Yep. Hey guys. So kind of the opposite of last week or last 2 weeks ago, whenever we did our update, we had made a lot of progress. We had a dialogue with the government. We, sent in a letter. They agreed to our conditions, very safe conditions: universal mask use, 25% occupancy, meaning most facilities could distance by 3 to 4 meters between participants. What they've shown us now is that safety really isn't going to change the issue. It doesn't matter how safe we make our facilities. At the end of the day, it's a public space where people gather, and they've decided that going forward, we're in a lockdown, and it's an indefinite lockdown. It looks like it could last a very long time. It's going to be these types of establishments that are closed, regardless of whether or not we can make them safe. what they're saying is they just don't want people leaving their homes. So we're basically on limited house arrest. He spent an hour yesterday making it very clear that we're not to meet with anyone outside of our family unit. This means socializing with just the people you live with. They were originally making that a law or like a health order, but they had to backtrack on that just because some people live alone, I guess, and just for safety and stuff like that, they have to be able to meet other people, have people check in on them, whatever it is. And they didn't want to make that kind of confusing or illegal or have people afraid of getting fined. But at this stage, fighting to be open right now, it's concerning because it could give us the wrong optics, right? It could look like we're doing it for our own sake and not the sake of our community, because our community is being told they have to stay home. So if we're open, what good is that if there's a health order that says you must stay home for the next 4 weeks or however long this is, which is confusing because he's left a very large list of businesses open, right? So you can go to a greenhouse for mental health. It's deemed essential here in Manitoba. But at the same time, he told people not to go, right? He said, you're not supposed to be going to anything other than just to pick up groceries. And if it's for that, it's one person by themselves. So you should be staying home. So it's confusing. The rules are arbitrary, I think, but what we need to do right now is make sure we can communicate with all the members in our community and try to keep them together, because we're seeing a lot of split off. We've got groups that want to sue the government. We've got groups doing petitions and rallies. We've got groups with these online petitions and stuff. So the job of the coalition over the next couple of weeks here is to try to get everyone together and give people the resources they need to get through this. The government has offered us a $6,000 grant, I guess, that's supposed to take us over the next month. And they've already approved to renew it for January. So they're assuming that this will be longer than that, I'm assuming, saying that this isn't enough funding. Might be for a small gym or a small studio, but if you own a large chain or a Good Life or something like that, that's not going to do anything. So I think one of the directions the FIC needs to go is this targeted funding that Scott was talking about in the beginning. We have to present ourselves as a collective industry and seek out industry specific funding, right? Like this is one thing we've just been slacking on. We need to get industry bailouts. Our industry is important. We need to make the case for that, and we need to seek direct funding because we are being hit much harder than almost any other industry, and the offerings of the other governments aren't going to be enough to get most businesses through. So that's kind of where we're going to focus our energy, I believe. So I think that's about it, but I just want to update people on how bad it is here. The average test positive rate in Canada is about 2.5%. Manitoba is at 11.6%. So that means if you test 100 people, you're going to get almost 12 of them positive. We have outbreaks in, I think it's 80% of our old folks' homes or 85% of the old folks' homes in Winnipeg, with deaths in the double digits in almost all of them. So it is bad, and we all have to stay home basically, right? I'm in my business, but I'm by myself. And it's going to be a long winter, I think. Any questions on Manitoba? I feel like there might be questions.
School still closed or open?
No, schools are open. So schools are open, which is again confusing. The whole plan that they have here is very confusing. Schools are open. Sort of essential businesses like chiropractors, massage. What else would be open? Like I said, the greenhouses, certain personal services are for pickup and delivery, obviously. So conflicting messaging in that, like, we have these businesses open that need customers, but also stay home. Don't be a customer.
Have they got any, it's Dave Hardy, Dino, good update, thank you.
Yeah.
Have they given you any update as to, are they still doing contact tracing, or have they just sort of lost track of community spread? Because it seems these shutdowns seem to follow the ability, the loss of the ability to community trace.
Yeah, in the last press conference, basically what he said is they've caught up-ish, right? They had lost track there for quite a few days. They got really far behind. I think one of the concerns is that like 40-ish% of the cases are just unknown, so they don't know where the cases are originating. I don't think that our closure has anything to do with the spread of the virus. I think it's just they closed anywhere where people can gather. So making a case that we're safe doesn't matter because they're just blanket closing all of those types of businesses just because the risks are that high. Because when that much of the population could have it, if people are getting together, the risk is there, right? Like we don't know better than they do. And the evidence of this is we had gotten the help of Dr. Shakarwe. He's the one that gave us the data that said use masks, exercise with masks on. Here's all the data. We presented that to Manitoba. That's what they went with. Now he is in the forefront of the lockdown in Ontario. So he's the one that's pushing for total lockdown, right? So we don't really have a leg to stand on when the evidence we were using for safety before is now being, it's not usable, right? So yeah, I don't know what to say about that.
Thank you. I agree.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is such a big difference than what you had reported in the last meeting, which is really too bad, but let's keep our fingers crossed. I guess that's all we can do.
Yeah, keep an open dialogue. That's the one thing, and see if there's things we can do, right? But at the end of the day, they've made it pretty clear that over the next 4 weeks, we have to stay home. The only concern I have, and I don't know if people watched my interview on CTV National, my concern is that we had a 4-week lockdown already, and that turned into 10 weeks because we had a phased reopening. So this could be 10 weeks, this could be shorter, this could be longer. But 4 weeks puts us right before Christmas, and I really just don't see a government taking the chances of letting everyone kind of go wild 2 weeks before Christmas, right? So I'm just trying to prepare people for a prolonged closure. Whether or not it happens, it's better to be prepared and give people the resources, like tell them what I'm doing, right? How are we getting through this? And then offering support. That's all we really can do here.
Great. Thank you, Dino. Let's go to Saskatchewan now. If Jolene is on the line here. Or Balal? Would you be able to share?
I can give you a quick update. We just had our press conference come out from our Saskatchewan Health Authority. I'll just read it out. Fitness facilities can continue to operate, but all group fitness activities such as spin classes, class circuit training, and aquasize will be limited to a maximum of 8 participants. All participants must stay 3 meters apart for the duration of the session. So we were expecting something today. We've been in touch with a lot of the health inspectors and some government officials, and the main SJ contact for Saskatoon area. There's 2 regions in Saskatchewan. And so I kind of thought that was coming. I had asked them about the masks. So last Friday, they made the masks mandatory within the gyms, which is fine because people are using more and more masks. Our caseload is going up as well. That's resulted in traffic going down probably 30 to 50% in the last few days. People just naturally don't want to come in the clubs, but more and more people throughout the week, last week, did wear masks. And so far, we're not in the worst of situations. We're able to stay open. We are already probably down to 8 to 10 or 12 people in a fitness class. We'll just go back down to being 8 per class. And in the world we live in, it just seems like if we can stay open, it's one place people can go to do something. And so I can kind of feel that on people's faces when they're at the gyms. I was at one of our gyms this morning and I saw that. And so I think people are really taking the mask thing seriously. Our caseload was averaging 120, but yesterday we recorded 112, I believe. And our test positivity rate was below 3%. And I calculated it as high as 8, but yesterday it was down to 5. So some of these policies haven't been in place for 2 weeks. So I think, I hope in the next 5 to 10 days that we can continually make progress. And I think if we continue to make progress here in Saskatchewan, we'll probably like, well, the clubs will stay open, so people from Ontario will have to drive 14 hours for a workout, but they can get here. That's about all I can add. I did notice Sky is on the call as well. If he wants to add something, that'd be fine.
Yeah, thank you, Balal.
Any questions? Okay.
Great, thank you. If there's anything else from Saskatchewan, at least we have some positives from that side. Yeah, let's go on to Alberta then.
Well, we had a disappointing meeting with Alberta Health on Wednesday, notifying us that they were going to put a pause on group fitness classes. Again, very confusing messaging. So we're still allowed to be open. We're still allowed to have personal training and small team training as long as the intensity isn't very high. But you can't do small team yoga because that's a class. They don't want to close a business, but a boutique studio would have to pivot. So for example, if you are a boutique and you teach classes, you can stay open, but you can't teach the class. So members can now come in on their own and wander around and just do their own workout versus the structure of the class, which makes absolutely no sense to us. So, so it's been tough. I think, you know, I'll just share that my personal opinion and what we're doing as a company with Gym Movement is we're hoping for the best, but honestly preparing for the worst. There seems to be a groundswell of public pressure to do this quote unquote circuit breaker, letters from physicians, nurse unions, people that work in the public sector, as well as people that are retired. So basically people that don't have to, you know, the money that they earn comes from sources other than their business. So that voice is getting louder. So what I think will happen is we will follow suit with Manitoba. If they really want a circuit breaker, you know, they need to close everything, including schools. We've seen in Quebec that just closing certain segments doesn't really do anything. So that's what what we're preparing for, is we're hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. I don't know, Blake or Emily, if you want to add to this story.
No, I'm good. I feel like the Edmonton Oilers. We've missed the playoffs 12 of the last 13 seasons, and we're just keep losing everywhere. So that's how I feel today.
Yeah. I'll shoot you guys a note, Blake, specifically you and Dave. And I've chatted with my ABSA co-founders again this morning, and I think we will do some kind of campaign again, specifically from the boutiques, because frankly, we're the ones affected most here. And we'll be very mindful of everything you guys have said so far of not working against the government, but our ask is simply going to be like, what are the numbers that back up? Like, we're not the problem. Like, shutting us down doesn't fix the problem. So please don't pin this on us. Because even I've had members reach out and just say, even the stigmatization, like when I go to the gym now, I feel like I'm getting side eye because I'm working out, you know, like it just even that sense. And we can't just sit down, roll over and take this. I refuse. So there will be something going out. I will share with you guys in advance, but I'm not taking this laying down.
Great, thank you for sharing. So let's go to BC. I know BC just started their first coalition meeting last week. Can we get an update, please? So if Lee or Jeff are on the call. I don't think Carl is here yet.
You on there, Lee?
Yeah, I can go, or you can go, Jeff. It's totally up to you.
Yeah, well, I'll just start by saying that we're pretty much in the same boat as what Alberta looks like. Last Saturday, our numbers have been staggeringly increasing since Thanksgiving, I guess. And last Saturday, they finally decided that all group fitness classes, dance studios, martial arts, all indoor sports are put on pause for group exercise classes and dance studios. They are closed until they have a new safety plan that has to be approved by health officers. They haven't really given us How that's going to kind of work. We've got, a 14-page checklist of things we have to do, but there's still going through it. There's still a lot of unknowns of what they're actually kind of looking for. Or when they plan to get these things approved. So we don't know when it can be. Again, like I said, our numbers are still rising. So there is this kind of thought in the back of our heads that this is just a start, and worse things could be coming down the road. But hopefully everyone's hanging in there, and we're just we can get our numbers kind of under control. But Lee's done a great job with getting the coalition going. I don't know. Do you want to talk about that, Lee?
Yeah, so the first Tuesday last week was our first time having the coalition of the actual members that we have. So we started off with 3 or 5, and then this Tuesday call we had 25 confirmed to be on the call, and some of them are on here today. So I totally appreciate them now jumping from FIC BC over to FIC National. So it's great to see a lot of friendly faces like Dominic, etc. on here. And the idea is hopefully next week we'll have potentially 50 plus gym owners on the call next week, and then we'll just keep skyrocketing up and up so that we've got a bigger voice in BC to help exactly what you guys are trying to push out as well. We are looking also into a lobbyist for BC to try and get our voice better heard with the government. And I'm looking for you guys' suggestions or inputs in terms of if you know anyone or suggestions for BC, then please file them over. And that is really the direction we want to go in, and obviously support FIC brand. There is one obstacle that I've discussed with Carol back and forward, in that if the clubs are shut down, there is a sentiment in BC that at least one major brand and some smaller brands might actually do a protest, or might actually go to the Parliament building and almost go down the path of embarrassing the government in some way, shape or form. And I'm looking for you guys' input or suggestions on if that's totally a no-go or that's something that we should look at. Right now, the stance is I've told them the FIC doesn't want to embarrass the government. We don't want to do protests and walkouts in front of the Parliament buildings. But I just want you guys to be aware that it's not coming from us if a certain brand does push that button in the next couple of weeks.
Well, I think, trying to be partners hasn't really worked. So, we got good traction in Ontario when we had our members do the petitions, and it made the media. And as long as what we're doing is lawful, I wouldn't be opposed personally to, getting louder.
Yep. Good to know. I know, definitely keep everyone updated as we get. Hopefully we don't get to that point of getting shut down, but it's definitely something that's definitely stirring people up that they would be interested in that kind of protest standpoint.
Yeah, it's a real double-edged sword. Because even that media attention we got, half of the time it was framed in a really negative way, and there has been a big part of the population that just is looking at the industry saying, "Oh, you guys are just putting your own profits over top of public health," and that's a big backlash. As other people have expressed, is like what Scott said about the people who are having the loudest voice. They're not the 17% that are the gym members who are already on our side, and that's who we talk to the most. So we get that. That's the echo chamber that a lot of us are in. So we're like, oh, well, all these people really want us to be open, and they really want us. They really see why fitness is essential and why these other things are. And that's the feedback loop we're in our own networks. But the other 83% that aren't gym members, they don't feel that way, and they're being scared by the media. And obviously the government is being very much on that same line. So it's a really double-edged sword. But like as Scott said, trying to be partners, trying to be cooperative hasn't worked, but doing it the other way doesn't also get public sentiment on our side. And that's the struggle, is how do we get public opinion to change, whether that's using data or that's taking a different approach. And that may also look at evaluating how we engage and sell to the public too. It's the whole spectrum.
Yeah, I was going to say a very similar thing, Nick, I was going to say a very similar thing, which is like, And I know Perry had sent something out with respect to, sort of a grassroots message, and being a bit louder. But I'm just not sure what I think everybody kind of needs to. I'm mad. As you can probably tell. Dave's had to peel me off the ceiling for the last 3 days. And I'm probably as upset about this as anyone, because I just feel like, you can offer all of this great information and everyone's just ignored it, or they just don't give a shit. But the reality is, I think we all have to take some time to think about how, if you're all going to get loud, I don't know what you're going to accomplish. Government's not going to listen to us. They've proven that, and quite honestly, by antagonizing them and making them look bad, I almost think that they'll be more prone to just, to take drastic action against the industry. And I think, the media is going to be extremely subjectively harsh on whatever loud message we put out there. So I think if you are going to get loud, make sure you have your facts right. Make sure you don't make unreasonable claims about there being, some level of a numerator of cases against the denominator of, workouts whereby it's like, you can poke holes in it. And maybe the message just needs to be how hard, maybe the loudness needs to be just how absolutely destroyed this industry is, and has been by all this regulation, and how I think what we've got to try and create is somewhat we were talking about in the Minister of Finance, or the finance call yesterday, where if we can create some advocacy behind things like a tax credit for fitness, which helps the industry recover, or something to help the industry recover when we get through this. That's probably what we need to focus on, rather than painting ourselves as the safe. I just think we're fighting uphill against the government that doesn't care, and against the media that's just going to slaughter us. So, Dave, maybe you want to add to that, but I think we got to be really careful about how we get loud.
And when Blake talks about me pulling him off the ceiling, he has got really strong hands. He was definitely on the ceiling.
I want to agree with that. I want to agree with everything Blake just said. I think we're going to be vilified very quickly, even if there's a small player talking. The media is going to try to make a story out of it. Public opinion is really against it. If you look at down in what's happening in the U.S., and Canadian media is even more left-leaning than down in the U.S., they just can't take the other side of this. And I think 100% that we work on things that are going to benefit the industry in the long term. And we have to find ways to get over this in the short term, like the rent subsidy, like the wage subsidy, and targeted assistance. That's the only way to get through this. To make lots of noise right now, and right now might be the right time to get those long-term goals through Parliament, which we haven't been able to for the longest time, like tax credits, as kind of something that the government gives up for us to kind of go along with them. We've had 5 inspections through the Saskatchewan and Alberta health authorities. I've agreed with them every time. I've asked them to put masks on. And you know what? They've kind of gone back in Saskatchewan here and not told them to shut us down, but saying, hey, you know what? These guys and their members and their management is willing to enforce the mask policy. They want the mask policy, and let's give them time. We're going to be better off swimming downstream than upstream right now. It's a bad idea to get in front of a camera right now. There's nothing you can say that's going to be right. There's too many unknowns out there. And you know what? One old person dying, people talk about it, just old people. It's one too many, in my opinion. I have a grandma and I have grandparents, and no one's going to understand that. And we're getting close. We're within 12 to 14 months of getting over this.
Yeah.
When we were on yesterday with Pat Kelly, one of the things that he kind of, and I mean, look, I kind of suspected this Liberal government, they're not going to give you a tax credit. They are not the government of tax credits. What they are the government of is chopping our legs out from underneath us and cutting us a check. So, I think we have to know who we're dealing with today. and understand that, maximize our efforts around them cutting us checks. And in the long run, if we can get a government change to a PC government, that's going to be a much easier. I mean, Pat Kelly said yesterday, that's something they wanted to do, and they were putting into effect had they been elected. So, in the long run, if we can get a PC government, I think we can probably achieve a tax credit. And maybe what we do is we set up our messaging today to say that, listen, this is what this industry is going to need: continued long-term support from things like this to be successful and to come out of this. Yelling and screaming right now about the injustices that are being done. I mean, I should show you guys this email I got from the Alberta Public Health at 11 o'clock at night last night. It's the most asinine thing I've ever seen in my life. We're just not going to get the answer that we want, and we're not going to get what we can out of media. I think we have to think a little bit more strategically about this.
Dave?
One final note, whatever interview we do, it'll be a 5-minute interview, and we'll talk about how safe we are, and they'll take out 10 seconds of it and turn it on the whole industry and actually turn our members against us. So just be really careful about that part of it. It's going to be biting our tongues. And the reality is, I think I have a daughter now who's now living in London, and I believe we're going to be going to this, what's happening in Manitoba, likely all across Canada, the way things are trending. So, don't expect this is going to be over quickly. I think we need as an industry to sort of hunker down. I do believe, though, in the long run, separating ourselves from the bars and restaurants where everyone's in there without, indoor gatherings without face masks, we are the only industry that's perceived to be with them. It's restaurants, it's bars, it's gyms. And, the earlier we get on distancing ourselves from them and showing that we can operate with masks on, we then become like any other retail store that are allowed to stay open. Because as they start to open back up, if we can open with that message that we're prepared to reopen with masks, we're going to have a lot more luck than positioning ourselves with restaurants. Strictly my opinion, but I still feel that way, and I felt that way now for about 4 months.
Great, thank you, everyone. I know that there are a lot of points of discussion that have just come up. We have come to the end of our time, so I understand if anybody is willing or wanting to leave or has other appointments, feel free to. But if there's any finishing comments or ideas, please let me know or let the group know, and we can have a quick discussion about it before we end.
I got a quick question. In BC, we do not have a provincial mask mandate. All of our staff wear masks, and we ask our members to mask up, but we haven't made it mandatory. In an area where it's not, mandated to do it, and if someone is on a piece of equipment, cardio equipment, and faints because they can't get enough air and really hurts themselves, are we liable for something like that? Because it's not a law.
That's a good question. I don't know if somebody has an answer for that.
Yeah,
Blake or
I can
Dave,
speak to that.
you know.
I'll talk about it a little bit. There's been some research already, and obviously in healthy individuals here, that masks don't affect exercise performance, right? So the thing about the mask is a lot of it's perceived exertion. So the more we can do to decrease that rate of perceived exertion, the more likely somebody's to adopt the masks. We've had masks in the gym here up until closure for about 6 weeks now. Everybody was using them, super straightforward. We got the brackets from Blake there that you put inside the mask. There's studies on those as well, and what they've shown with the brackets is those decreased rate of perceived exertion. So it kind of balances out. You give them the bracket, throw on the mask, they can exercise just fine. The concern becomes when somebody has a medical condition and you don't know about it, right? So if anyone who's got a gym membership, I know for my insurance, I have to do a PAR-Q with them, right? So I have to know their medical history. I have to know what their limitations are. So this might be a time to go over all of that with your members and ensure that you are up to date on what people's health concerns are, because if they do have problems breathing, the change in perception of effort can definitely influence getting enough air. So The way we approach it here is, as business owners, it's our responsibility to educate the member on how to wear one, how to use one, and how to exercise safely with one on. So that's kind of my suggestion. In terms of liability, I would just talk to your insurance company. I did that here, and they said I had no issue with liability. Again, people can choose not to participate, right? They can just stay home and exercise. So that's my thought.
I found a study which said that the brackets actually work. They were tested only on surgical masks. They were not tested on any of the cloth masks. So if your member wears a cloth mask, like a lot of people do, apparently it does not work under them. I can send. I don't know how to share a screen, and I don't know where it is right now, but I will send it to Trisha to share.
Yeah, I think I read that too. I think the concern was just to make sure that it touches your, like, if you put it in the wrong fitting mask, it'll push it out, right? And then now you have air escaping. So I think it's the study I read, but I think the concern is make sure that the mask fits properly.
Yeah, it really depends on the mask. The paper masks actually work really well. Certainly more of a nylon, and you want to have two different types of material. But we've tested them as well with cloth, with cotton masks. Some of them are just really stiff, and those ones don't fit well either. So you do have to find the right mask. But you know, we've been able to do it where you get a tight seal. The biggest problem actually for a lot of people is right above the nose here, where there's a gap as well. And that's with and you find those as well with the cloth masks if they're of a stiffer cotton material. So you do have to find the right one. There's no question, and maybe we have to do more to educate our customers on that.
Right, great. Thank you everyone for attending today and providing us with your updates as well as conversation pieces. We will keep in touch throughout the upcoming week and make sure that we can gather again. Angela, you have one more thing you wanted to mention? Oh, I just saw that you have your...
Oh, I just was on the wrong button.
Oh, no worries. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And as always, please join us as a member of FIC if you are not already, and we will see you again and speak to you all very shortly.
Bye.
Bye.
Guys, bye-bye.